and coming. The warning cry echoed through the cavernous arena, followed immediately by a resounding thwack as a glowing projectile slammed into the chest of an unsuspecting Zorlak. The impact sent the poor creature flying backwards, its tentacles flailing wildly before it crashed into the energy barrier with a sickening squelch. "And that's another one down," the announcer's voice boomed over the loudspeakers. "The humans strike again. Who would have thought these Deathworlders could be so deadly at Dodgeball?" In the VIP observation deck, a group of alien dignitaries watched the match unfold with a mixture of horror and fascination. Zartak, the Arthropodian representative, clicked his mandibles nervously as he turned to his fellow spectators. "I don't suppose any of you fine folks want to remind me whose brilliant idea it was to let the humans participate," he chittered sarcastically. Gleep Nor, the gelatinous blob serving as the head of the Galactic Sports Committee, rippled uncomfortably. "Well, if you recall," Zartak it burbled defensively, "we all had a good laugh about it at the time. Who knew they'd be so enthusiastic?" Enthusiastic, squawked Azilara, the avian representative from Avi Prime. "Is that what we're calling it now? They're demolishing everyone. Did you see what they did to the Gizornian team? Those poor methane breathers will be in therapy for cycles." Down in the arena, the human team was living up to its newfound reputation. They moved with a fluid grace that belied their stocky forms, dodging incoming projectiles with ease while returning fire with terrifying accuracy. Their captain, a muscular woman named Sarah the Cannon Johnson, snatched a glowing orb out of the air and immediately hurled it back with devastating force. "Ooh, and there goes the last Andromedan," the announcer crowed gleefully. "Looks like Captain Johnson's living up to her nickname. I haven't seen an arm like that since the great tentacle wars of Cygnus X1. In the human team's dugout, Coach Mike Mad Dog Donnelly was barking orders like a drill sergeant on a caffeine bender. "Jenkins, stop admiring your biceps and get back in there. Joe, remember what I told you, aim for the squishy bits. And for the love of all that's holy, Rodriguez, stop apologizing every time you hit someone." As the match progressed, the VIP box continued to be a hotbed of disbelief and recrimination. "This is unprecedented," Sylara fluttered her wings agitatedly. "We're supposed to be fostering interstellar goodwill, not whatever this brutality is." Zartak's antennae twitched in agreement. "Indeed, I've seen less violence in Craxon death matches." Although he added with a hint of reluctant admiration, "I must admit their technique is impressive." Gleep Nor's gelatinous form rippled thoughtfully. "Perhaps we've underestimated our new galactic neighbors. After all, they do come from what do they call it? A death world." "Death world is right," Salara muttered. "Did you know their planet actively tries to kill them? Earthquakes, volcanoes, hurricanes, and don't even get me started on their wildlife. Everything there seems designed to maim, poison, or devour them." And yet Zartak mused, his compound eyes fixed on the arena where the humans continued their reign of rubbery terror. Here they are, not just surviving but excelling. It's almost admirable. Down in the arena, the final moments of the match were unfolding. The human team faced off against the last remaining opponents, a group of silicon-based lifeforms from the Omega Centauri cluster. Known for their rock-hard bodies and precise calculations, the Omegans were formidable opponents. "All right, Team Sarah," gathered her squad for a quick huddle. "This is it. These rocky bastards are tough, but we've got something they don't." "Crippling student debt," quipped Jenkins, earning a few nervous chuckles. Sarah rolled her eyes. "No, you meathead. We've got Earth gravity on our side. Remember your training used those muscles." As they broke from the huddle, Coach Donnelly's voice rang out one last time. "And for crying out loud, try not to cause another interstellar incident. I'm running out of fruit baskets to send as apologies." The final round began, and it was a spectacle to behold. The humans moved like well-oiled machines, their movements a blur to the watching aliens. They leapt, dodged, and hurled with an intensity that left their silicon opponents quite literally spinning. "Holy neutron stars," the announcer bellowed. "Did you see that? Johnson just knocked a chunk off that Omegan's left shoulder. I didn't even know that was possible." In the VIP box, the alien dignitaries watched in stunned silence as the humans systematically dismantled their opponents. It wasn't just their physical prowess that was impressive, it was their teamwork, their strategy, their sheer determination. "You know, Zartak said slowly, his mandibles clicking thoughtfully, I'm beginning to think we may have misjudged these humans." Solara nodded, her earlier indignation replaced by a grudging respect. They're certainly full of surprises. Who would have thought those stubby limbs could move so fast? Gleep, Nor's gelatinous form quivered with excitement. This could change everything. Just think of the possibilities for interspecies cooperation and cultural exchange. Down in the arena, the final moments of the match played out like a well-choreographed dance of destruction. Sarah the Cannon Johnson faced off against the Omegan captain, a towering pillar of living crystal named Zix Tal. Ready to crumble, rock-faced Sarah taunted, bouncing a glowing dodgeball in her hand. Zix Tal's crystalline form vibrated in what might have been laughter. Your organic bravado is amusing, human. But I calculate a 99.87% probability of your defeat. Sarah's grin turned feral. Yeah. Well, here's a lesson from Earth, buddy. Never tell us the odds. What followed was an exchange of projectiles so fast that even the advanced cameras struggled to keep up. Sarah ducked, weaved, and hurled with inhuman speed, while Zixtal's crystalline form refracted the incoming balls in unpredictable directions. In the end, it came down to a single throw. Sarah, panting and covered in sweat, locked eyes with her opponent. Time seemed to slow as she wound up for the final throw. This is for Earth, you oversized paperweight. The ball left her hand, like a comet, trailing a tail of blue energy as it streaked across the arena. Zix Tal, caught off guard by the sheer speed of the throw, didn't even have time to calculate a dodge. The impact was spectacular. A shower of crystalline shards erupted as the Omegan captain shattered into 1,000 glittering pieces. For a moment, silence reigned. Then, as the realization of what had just happened sunk in, the arena erupted into chaos. Unbelievable, the announcer shrieked, his voice cracking with excitement. The humans have done it. They've won the Galactic Dodgeball Championship. In their debut appearance, no less. This is unprecedented. This is incredible. This is... Oh my, is that Zix Tal reforming? Someone get a medic, just in case. As the human team celebrated their victory, hugging and high-fiving with reckless abandon, the alien spectators looked on in a state of shock. In the VIP box, Zartak turned to his fellow dignitaries, his antennae twitching with a mixture of disbelief and reluctant admiration. Well, he chittered, I suppose we should prepare some sort of victory ceremony. Any volunteers to present the trophy? No? I thought not. Sylara ruffled her feathers nervously. Perhaps we should reconsider some of our preconceptions about species from high-gravity worlds, she mused. Clearly, we've underestimated their potential. Gleep Nor's gelatinous form rippled with excitement. Oh, this is wonderful, it burbled. Just think of the ratings, the merchandising opportunities, the potential for diplomatic relations. As the celebrating humans were led off the arena floor, leaving behind a trail of broken equipment and shattered alien pride, the implications of their victory began to sink in across the galactic community. News of the human triumph spread faster than a quantum entanglement network on steroids. Across the galaxy, reactions ranged from disbelief to excitement to outright panic. On Xylos Prime, the homeworld of a race of hyper-intelligent amoebae, the ruling council convened an emergency session to reassess their defense strategies. If they can do that with rubber balls, one elder blob gurgled, imagine what they could do with actual weapons. In the methane swamps of Gazornia, the defeated Dodgeball team was welcomed home as heroes not for their performance, but for surviving an encounter with the terrifying humans. Their tales of Earth's gravity and the humans' inexplicable love for trash-talking would become the stuff of legend, told around bubbling methane fires for generations to come. Even the notoriously reclusive void dwellers, a species that communicated solely through gravitational waves, sent a message that roughly translated to holy %. Did you see that? Back on the space station that had hosted the championship, the human team found themselves the center of attention at the victory banquet. Alien diplomats, scientists, and sports enthusiasts alike clamored for a chance to speak with these fascinating and terrifying creatures from Earth. Sarah the Cannon Johnson, still sweaty from the match and nursing a large mug of something that might have been beer or possibly liquid nitrogen, found herself cornered by a group of wide-eyed alien admirers. Is it true, chittered a nervous-looking arthropodian, that on your world you voluntarily subject yourselves to additional gravity for fun? Sarah laughed, nearly causing the poor alien to molt in fright. Oh, you mean weightlifting? Yeah, it's a pretty popular pastime. Helps build muscle, you know. The aliens exchanged horrified glances. One of them, a floating gas bag from Jupiter's moon Europa, whistled quizzically. But why would you need more muscle? Are you not satisfied with your current terrifying levels of strength? Before Sarah could answer, Coach Donnelly muscled his way through the crowd, his face a storm cloud of irritation. Johnson, what did I tell you about fraternizing with the aliens? We've got a press conference in 10 minutes, and I'll be damned if I let you start another interstellar incident. As the coach dragged his star player away, muttering something about diplomatic nightmares and sensitivity training, the gathered aliens were left to ponder the implications of humanity's unexpected victory. In a quiet corner of the banquet hall, Zartak, Sylara, and Gleep Nor huddled together, their voices low and concerned. We can't ignore this, Xylara whispered, her feathers ruffled with agitation. The humans have proven themselves far more capable than we ever imagined. What if they decide to use their abilities for more than just sports? Zartak's mandibles clicked nervously. Agreed. Their performance today was nothing short of terrifying. Did you see how they celebrated? They were actually hitting each other on the back. For fun, Gleep Nor's gelatinous form rippled thoughtfully. Perhaps, it burbled, we've been looking at this all wrong. Instead of fearing the humans, maybe we should be embracing their potential. Think about it, a species that can not only survive but thrive in such hostile conditions could be an invaluable ally. The other two considered this for a moment. Sylara was the first to speak. You may have a point, she conceded. Their adaptability could be useful in colonizing worlds we've previously considered uninhabitable. And their competitive spirit, Zartak added, warming to the idea, could drive innovation across the galaxy. Imagine harnessing that determination for scientific advancement. As the alien dignitaries continued their hushed discussion, plotting out a future that now inevitably included humanity, the human team remained blissfully unaware of the impact of their victory. They were too busy trying to figure out how to drink from glasses designed for tentacles and avoiding accidentally insulting anyone with their aggressive body language. Jenkins, the team's self-appointed morale officer, was in the middle of teaching a group of fascinated Xenons how to do the wave when he overheard a snippet of conversation from a nearby table. ... And did you see the way they move? It's like they don't even notice their own mass. I know. And apparently on their world, they voluntarily run for extended periods, just for fun. Inconceivable. Next, you'll be telling me they intentionally immerse themselves in dihydrogen monoxide. Jenkins couldn't help but chuckle. If only these aliens knew about extreme sports or, God forbid, the Darwin Awards. Some things, he decided, were better left unsaid, at least until the galaxy had a chance to recover from the shock of the Dodgeball Championship. As the night wore on and the celebration showed no signs of slowing down, much to the alarm of the station's structural integrity monitoring systems, it became clear that the galaxy would never be quite the same again. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage in a way no one could have predicted, armed with nothing more than rubber balls and an unyielding spirit forged in the crucible of their deadly homeworld. The next morning, or what passed for morning on a space station, as the human team nursed their hangovers and tried to remember if they'd accidentally declared war on anyone, the Galactic Sports Committee convened an emergency session. Gleep Nor, looking slightly worse for wear, if that was possible for a being made entirely of goo, called the meeting to order. Right, it burbled, its usual smooth ripples looking decidedly choppy. I think we can all agree that yesterday's events were unexpected. A chorus of groans and clicks of agreement echoed around the room. The question now, Gleep Nor continued, is how do we proceed? Clearly, our assumptions about the humans were, well, let's be honest, they were completely off the mark. Zartak raised a claw. I move that we immediately ban humans from all future sporting events, for the safety of everyone involved. Seconded, chirped Ilara. Did you see what they did to the refreshment table last night? They called it a food fight. The cleaning drones are still in therapy. Gleep Nor's gelatinous form rippled in what might have been a sigh. While I understand your concerns, I'm not sure banning the humans is the answer. Like it or not, they're part of the galactic community now. We need to find a way to integrate them. Zartak's mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. How do you propose we do that? Every time they move, half the species in the room flinch. As the debate raged on, a small commotion at the door caught everyone's attention. To the committee's collective horror, Sarah the Cannon Johnson strode into the room, looking surprisingly chipper for someone who had consumed her own body weight in alien alcohol the night before. Morning, Everyone she chirped, either oblivious to or deliberately ignoring the way several committee members tried to hide behind their chairs. Hope I'm not interrupting anything important. Just wanted to drop off our application for next year's championship. The room fell silent, save for the sound of Xylara molting in sheer panic. Gleipnir, ever the diplomat, managed to pull itself together. "Ah, Captain Johnson," it burbled, trying to keep its gelatinous form from quivering too noticeably. "How? Unexpected. We were just discussing the implications of your team's performance yesterday." Sarah's grin widened, sending a shudder through the assembled aliens. "Oh yeah? Well, I hope you're ready for next year. We're thinking of bringing a few more teams. Really make it a proper Earth-style tournament." The color drained from several committee members simultaneously, creating a fascinating visual effect that Sarah might have appreciated under different circumstances. Or, Teams Gleipnir managed to burble, its gelatinous form now resembling a particularly anxious pudding. Absolutely, Sarah beamed, completely missing, or perhaps enjoying the panic her words were causing. "We're thinking of bringing teams from different Earth regions. Really showcase the diversity of human athletic prowess." Zartak, who had been inching towards the exit, froze mid-scuttle. "Different regions," he chittered nervously. "You mean there are humans who are even more enthusiastic than your team?" Sarah laughed, a sound that sent several smaller committee members diving for cover. "Oh, you bet. Wait till you see the Australians play. Now those guys know how to handle balls of death." Xylara, who had been furiously molting in the corner, suddenly perked up. "Balls of death? Is that some sort of human weaponry?" "What? Oh, no," Sarah chuckled. "It's just what we call the really venomous spiders back home. The ones that like to hide in your shoes." The room fell silent again, this time with a distinct undercurrent of existential dread. Gleipnir, realizing that the situation was rapidly spiraling out of control, decided to take charge. "Captain Johnson," it burbled with as much authority as a sentient blob could muster, "while we appreciate your enthusiasm, I'm afraid we need to discuss some concerns about yesterday's match." Sarah's smile faltered slightly. "Concerns? What kind of concerns? Did we break some obscure rule? Because I swear, Jenkins didn't mean to eat that Chlorian's flag. He thought it was a snack." No, Gleipnir hastened to assure her, its gelatinous form rippling with what might have been nervousness. "It's more about the intensity of your play. Several species have filed complaints about, trauma." Sarah's brow furrowed. "Trauma? But we were playing by the rules." "Well, mostly. I mean, there wasn't actually a rule against using an opponent as a human shield, right?" Zartak, who had given up on escaping and was now huddled under his chair, let out a strangled chirp. "Human shield? You used other players as shields?" "What?" No, Sarah looked offended. "We used our own teammates as shields. It's a legitimate strategy." The room erupted into chaos. Xylara began molting so furiously she was in danger of going bald. Zartak's mandibles were clicking at a frequency that threatened to shatter glass, and several smaller committee members had simply fainted. Gleipnir, realizing that diplomacy was rapidly going out the airlock, decided to take a different approach. "Captain Johnson," it burbled firmly, "perhaps we should discuss this elsewhere. Maybe over some of that coffee your species seems so fond of." Sarah's face lit up. "Now you're talking. I've been dying for a decent cup of joe since we got here. No offense, but your quantum quasar juice just doesn't cut it." As Gleipnir ushered the enthusiastic human out of the room, promising to discuss adaptive rule changes and interspecies sensitivity training, the rest of the committee was left to ponder the new reality they found themselves in. Zartak, emerging cautiously from under his chair, turned to Xylara. He chittered thoughtfully, "Perhaps we've been looking at this all wrong." Xylara, who had managed to stop molting and was now covered in a fine layer of down, cocked her head quizzically. "How do you mean?" "Well," Zartak continued, his antennae twitching with newfound excitement, "think about it. If the humans are this enthusiastic about a simple game, imagine what they could bring to other areas of galactic society." "You can't be serious," Azara squawked incredulously. "They're walking disaster zones." "Exactly." Zartak click-ticked his mandibles triumphantly. "Who better to help us explore dangerous new worlds, or to assist in high-risk scientific experiments, or even to act as a deterrent against some of the more aggressive species in the galaxy? As the idea began to take hold, the mood in the room shifted. Fear and panic gave way to cautious optimism, and in some cases, outright excitement. Meanwhile, in the station's cafeteria, Sarah found herself engaged in an unexpectedly pleasant conversation with Gleep Nor. The gelatinous being, it turned out, had a surprisingly good grasp of human sports history and was fascinated by the concept of underdog stories. "So let me get this straight," Gleep Nor burbled, its form rippling with interest. "Your species actually celebrates instances where statistically inferior teams or individuals triumph against overwhelming odds." Sarah nodded, taking a sip of what passed for coffee in this part of the galaxy. It tasted like a mix of rocket fuel and licorice, but after a week of alien cuisine, she'd take what she could get. "Absolutely. Some of our greatest sports legends come from underdog stories. The Miracle on Ice, Buster Douglas knocking out Mike Tyson, Leicester City winning the Premier League. Humans love a good upset." Gleep Nor's form shimmered in what Sarah had come to recognize as deep thought. "Fascinating. This explains much about your team's performance. You weren't just playing to win, you were enacting a cultural narrative." Sarah chuckled. "I wouldn't go that far. We just really like proving people wrong when they underestimate us." As their conversation continued, touching on topics ranging from the finer points of Dodgeball strategy to the challenges of interspecies diplomacy, a plan began to form in Gleep Nor's gelatinous mind. Perhaps there was a way to harness this human enthusiasm, this indomitable spirit, for the benefit of the entire galaxy. Back in the committee room, the remaining members were warming to Zartak's idea. Solara, her initial skepticism giving way to cautious optimism, raised an interesting point. "If we're going to integrate humans into galactic society," she chirped, "we need to find a way to channel their energy productively. We can't have them accidentally starting wars every time they get excited." A Medusan representative, whose writhing tentacle hair had finally stopped trying to strangle itself in panic, offered a suggestion. "What if we created some sort of galactic extreme sports league? Give them an outlet for their competitive drive that doesn't involve, actual combat." The idea was met with a chorus of excited clicks, whistles, and burbles. Suddenly, the prospect of human integration didn't seem quite so terrifying. In fact, it was starting to sound downright exciting. As the committee began to hash out the details of what would eventually become the Galactic Extreme Games motto, where death is just a technicality, Sarah and Gleep Nor were putting the finishing touches on their own plan. "So let me get this straight," Sarah said, leaning forward with an intensity that made Gleep Nor's gelatinous form quiver slightly. "You want us to be sort of galactic ambassadors, using sports as a way to bridge the gap between humans and other species?" Gleep Nor's form rippled affirmatively. "Precisely. Your team has already demonstrated an uncanny ability to, shall we say, leave a lasting impression. Why not harness that for the greater good of interstellar relations?" Sarah grinned, a sight that would have sent half the committee diving for cover. "I like it, but we're going to need some changes to the current setup. For starters, we need to introduce some real Earth sports. Dodgeball is fun and all, but wait till these aliens see rugby." As Sarah began enthusiastically outlining her vision for a galactic sports revolution, complete with descriptions of sports that made Gleep Nor seriously reconsider the wisdom of its plan, neither of them noticed the small group of alien youths eavesdropping from a nearby table. These young aliens, representatives of a dozen different species, had watched the human team's performance with awe rather than fear. To them, the humans weren't terrifying Deathworlders, they were the epitome of cool. "Did you hear that?" whispered a young Andromedan, its tentacles quivering with excitement. "They're going to introduce more Earth sports." A Gazornian youth bubbled methane enthusiastically. "I want to learn this rugby. It sounds gloriously chaotic." "Forget rugby," chittered a young Arthropodian. "I want to try this parkour they mentioned. Imagine using our exoskeletons for flips and wall runs." As the alien youths excitedly discussed the possibilities, a new era of galactic culture was unknowingly being born, one where the line between terrifying and awesome was blurrier than ever, and where the word extreme was about to take on a whole new meaning. Over the next few months, the galaxy watched with a mixture of fascination and trepidation as humanity burst onto the interstellar scene. The Galactic Extreme Games became an overnight sensation, drawing participants and spectators from every corner of known space. Humans, it turned out, had an uncanny knack for turning almost anything into a sport. Zero-gravity parkour became an instant hit, with alien physiologies bringing new dimensions to the art of flinging oneself through space with reckless abandon. Methane's swamp wrestling, suggested half-jokingly by Sarah, became the surprise favorite of the Gizornian population. But it wasn't just about the sports. As aliens and humans mingled, competed, and occasionally ended up in medical bays together, something unexpected happened. Barriers began to break down. Preconceptions were shattered. Friendships were forged in the crucible of shared adrenaline, or whatever passed for it in non-human physiologies. Zar-Tak, watching a human and a Sorlak team up for a particularly death-defying display of synchronized space diving, turned to Zylara with a mandible click of amusement. You know he chittered. When I suggested integrating humans into galactic society, I didn't quite envision. Zylara, whose feathers had finally grown back after all the stress molting, nodded sagely. It's certainly not what anyone expected. But you have to admit, it's working. Did you see the latest approval ratings? Interspecies cooperation is at an all-time high. Gleep Nor, who had joined them in the observation deck, rippled contentedly. Indeed. And it's not just in sports. Human out-of-the-box thinking is revolutionizing everything from xenobiology to faster-than-light travel research. As if to punctuate Gleep Nor's point, a cheer went up from the crowd below. Sarah the Cannon Johnson, now a galactic celebrity in her own right, had just set a new record in the asteroid slalom, a sport that combined elements of skiing, jetpack racing, and sheer insanity. I still can't believe we let them bring their extreme sports into space. Sarah amused, watching as Sarah was mobbed by a group of adoring alien fans. Do you remember how terrified we all were after that first dodgeball match? Zar-Tak's antennae twitched in amusement. Oh, we had good reason to be terrified. We just didn't realize that terror and exhilaration could be two sides of the same coin for some species. As they watched the celebrations below, a young Medusan approached their group, its tentacle hair writhing with barely contained excitement. Excuse me, it said, its voice quivering with awe, but is it true that on Earth, humans sometimes jump out of perfectly functional aircraft? For fun, Gleep Nor's gelatinous form rippled with what might have been a chuckle. Ah, you must be talking about skydiving. Yes, it's quite popular among humans. In fact, I believe there are plans to introduce a variant in next year's Extreme Games. Something about orbital skydiving. The young Medusan's eyes widened to the point where they threatened to pop out of its head. That's insane? Terrifying? Completely illogical, Zylara offered helpfully. Awesome, the Medusan exclaimed, its tentacle hair forming into what could only be described as a hairstyle of pure joy. Do you think they'd let non-humans try it? As the young alien rushed off to find out more about this thrilling new sport, the three committee members exchanged glances. Well, Zar-Tak chittered, his mandibles clicking in a pattern that might have been a smile. I think it's safe to say that humanity's integration into galactic society is proceeding. Interestingly, Gleep Nor's form rippled in agreement. Indeed, it seems we've gone from fearing the Deathworlders to, what's that human expression? If you can't beat them, join them. Solara ruffled her feathers in what might have been a shrug. I suppose there are worse ways for a species to make its mark on the galaxy. At least it's never boring with humans around. As they turned back to watch the continuing celebrations, a thought occurred to Zar-Tak. You know, he chittered thoughtfully, perhaps we should consider entering a team in next year's games. Show these humans that we're not as fragile as they think. The idea was met with a moment of stunned silence, followed by a burst of laughter or the closest approximation each species could manage. Now that Gleep Nor burbled, its gelatinous form quivering with mirth, would truly be the ultimate example of human influence on our galaxy, inspiring even the most cautious among us to take risks and push boundaries. As the laughter subsided, replaced by a contemplative silence, the three aliens found themselves watching the humans below with newfound appreciation. These strange, reckless, endlessly enthusiastic Deathworlders had done more than just win a dodgeball tournament. They had, in their own chaotic way, brought a spark of something new to a galaxy that hadn't realized how much it needed shaking up. The future, they realized, was going to be many things terrifying, exhilarating, probably a bit dangerous, but above all, it was going to be interesting. And really, in a galaxy full of wonders, what more could anyone ask for? As Sarah the Cannon Johnson raised her trophy, surrounded by a cheering crowd of humans and aliens alike, one thing became abundantly clear: the age of humanity in the galaxy had only just begun, and if this was just the warm-up, The main event was going to be one hell of a ride.